the energy, for the vibe, for the love. Thank you for the beauty of all that we are and all that we are becoming. Thank you, my sister, for the happy birthday, because that's the one right there. I love all of them, but you know, when you bring that, you know you're at home.
Yeah.
So thank you. Thank you so much for making me feel and welcoming me home. Ray, thank you for that wonderful introduction. Where'd you go? There you are. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. She's Speaking into Existence, the book. It's not written yet, but you just spoke it into existence. Truly, God gives you signs. The Bible and the Quran agree that, yea, there are signs in the heavens and the earth, yet man grew heedless in recognizing the signs. Amen. So I am a PK kid too. But I'm not here to preach, but I'm here to channel some of our foremothers and forefathers, because what they gave us is priceless. So again, good afternoon, my beautiful family. On this day, that is my birthday, and also the birthday of our bold and beloved brother, Malcolm X, I stand in deep gratitude and appreciation for life, for legacy, and for the chance to gather with you to exchange energy, to exchange ideas, to imagine a future, but also to step forward together in building that future. We are in a moment right now of both uncertainty, but also of possibility. Systems are shifting, truths are being suppressed, old structures broken down. But here's what I believe. Although critical, this is not a crisis.
That's right.
Do not panic.
That's right.
This is a creative opportunity for those who recognize it and are prepared to lean into it. And what we do right now, however, determines the kind of future we step into, the kind of legacy we leave, and also what our future generations are going to inherit. And this is one of the reasons why I'm so grateful for today's conference, the inaugural Black Diaspora Career Summit. That means it's the first, but it's not going to be the last. Yes. Thank you, Dr. Kiki, my beautiful sister. Thank you, Dr. Hill, my brother. Thank you to my sisters, Patricia, Adana, Ray, and Charlotte. Thank you to the Pan-African Graduate Student Association members. And thank you to the University of Massachusetts at Boston. Because your leadership, for not only standing firm in this time, in this moment, but also moving forward in it. Not shrinking in fear, because that is one of the lies of the enemy. I am honored to stand and move with you. And congratulations to our graduates again. You did that. And we're so proud of you, and we stand with you, ready to support you, to pour into you, and lift you up. So before I move into action, I must honor the advocacy that brought us here. Advocacy is how we've challenged exclusion, demanded visibility, and protected one another on campuses, in families, and in every movement where we have refused to be silenced or erased. It is how we pushed back against the systems that try to define us before we could define ourselves. But advocacy is just the beginning. Action is the next chapter. So today, I'm not going to talk to you about finding a job per se, although my sincere hope is that what I share with you will help you in that endeavor. I want to help you understand the system within which that job exists, as well as the system that you're building inside yourself. I often tell my students, don't react, reimagine, and redesign. Because the systems that shaped us were not made to reflect us. They were made to extract from us. They were made to instill fear by making us feel small and weak and subservient so that we could be controlled. And so now, where do we find the systems that will sustain us in this day and in this hour? I am here to plant the seed that now is the time for us to finally reprioritize building those systems for ourselves. Because as you enter the next chapter, you are either going to plug into someone else's systemic design, or you're going to begin designing a system that reflects your truth. So, systems. Let's be real. We're always operating within a system. Some are external, workplaces that praise diversity while punishing authenticity, institutions that need your labor but not your leadership, economies that were never built for you to benefit from your genius or the wealth that genius helped to create. But the most powerful systems are the internal systems. That little voice inside that says, I have to be perfect or I'll get exposed. The belief that getting 8 hours of sleep at night is somehow laziness. If you don't question both the external and internal systems, you will graduate. And there's a good chance that you will recreate the very dynamics you are trying to escape. I submit to you that if you were raised in the US, educated in United States educational systems, you too, like me, were raised to be a white supremacist. I know I was.
There you go.
I was raised to love all things white and beautiful. From the old Webster's Dictionary, the description, the definition of white and black were in contrast. White was lovely. Angel's food cake is white. Devil's food cake is black. Black is somehow sullen and dirty. But when it's in power, black is somehow powerful. Judges wear black robes.
There you go.
We attend special functions of honor and distinction. We wear all black. We ride in black limousines. But when it comes to people, somehow black is now something to shrink from, something to hide from, something that is now dirty. These are all lies. And I submit to you that we must unlearn to then learn the truth and the power of who we are. So how do we interrupt this cycle? I'm going to share with you a blueprint that I have lived by, focusing on the 3 most powerful internal systems. Because the external systems are one thing, but you can influence the external systems. You can change the internal systems. You have complete control over every internal system inside of you. And those 3, the most powerful systems inside of you, are your mindset, your skill set, and your habit set. So mindset, it's what you believe about yourself and others. I call mindset like the weather in your head. It's the lens through which you see everything, every challenge, every opportunity. And when I say you, I mean me too. You means me, you means you means everybody, because as I'm speaking to you, I'm speaking to myself as well. So mindset is not just about thinking positively, although thinking positively is important. It's about the stories you believe about who you are and what's possible for you. And let's be real, many of us are carrying stories we did not write. Do you walk into a room thinking, I have to prove I belong here? Or do you walk in knowing that I'm here to learn and that is okay? Do you think that making mistakes means that you're not good enough or that you don't belong? Many of us inherited trauma that tells us that we must earn our daily breath and our daily bread through constant struggle, toil, and sacrifice to reveal our greatness. I know these stories well. I've lived them. For over 30 years, I worked in corporate America. God help me. I still here, Lord, I made it. Going above and beyond, volunteering for those stretch assignments, working late hours, adding value beyond my job description. You know, grinding, as they say. Part of the problem was my mindset. I leaned into the trope that we have to work 3 times as hard to get half the pay. I got stellar reviews, I got stellar feedback from my managers, and the most amazing survey feedback from the employees that attended the classes that I taught. And for all of my Employee of the Year worthy behavior, I was mocked for my religious attire, and I was grossly underpaid. One day, I was told that a beautiful pin that I wore in my kimar, an Islamic hair covering, that it made me look like an alien. And one day, as the company's work halted to transform nearly every inch of the office into some devilish scenes for Halloween in which I did not personally participate, I was told I was already wearing my costume.
Oh, shit.
I was overstressed, I was underpaid, I was experiencing bouts of anxiety where I didn't want to get out of bed some days, and simmering at full-blown burnout. And for my troubles, I then learned that I was being paid $20,000 per year, less than someone who had just joined the organization with the same title as me. That broke something in me, but it also woke something in me. I realized that I was more committed to being accepted by a broken system than I was to building a system that reflected my purpose. That's when I stopped hustling for inclusion and started planning for freedom. I got clear on who I was and remembered whose I was. My mother, may God rest her soul, reminded me that God had intentionally created me. God has intentionally created you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you. Intentional design. And that we are a part of his divine plan to fulfill his divine purpose. Why do you think there's so much energy being put towards the oppression of Black people in this country? If we're so unworthy, then why bother? I submit to you that you are more powerful and important than you can fathom. Those who are actively trying to hinder your rise and stifle your brilliance do so because they know who you are more than you know who you are. So for us to shrink from the truth of who we are, of where we come from, and who we come from, is a mistake. That too is a lie of a demon. Malcolm X said, you can't hate the root of the tree and not end up hating the tree. So for those of us who may or may not have an appetite for Mother Africa, from which we all stem, unequivocally all stem, I invite you to re-examine that. So I stopped waiting to be invited in and started preparing to exit out. It was a radical pivot for me. I started to draft a plan to leave that corporate system of oppression that was hating me and in turn encouraging me to hate me too. Because I was drinking their Kool-Aid every day and sometimes twice on Sundays. My exit plan was for me to pour my energy into the for-profit consulting business that I had, called Global, and pour my gifts into serving youth by creating a program I would run through a nonprofit business that I would create. If I was going to be successful, I knew I had to take personal inventory. I had to really excavate my mindset, skill set, and habit set. What was my mindset? What were the stories I was telling about myself and about others? Which stories were true and helpful? Which stories were lies I needed to unlearn in order to be free? How broad was my skill set? What were my critical skills gaps? And what were my regular habits? Were they helpful or would they hold me back? I gave my exit strategy a timeline of 3 to 5 years. And with God's help, I did it before and have never looked back. You see, too often, we're asked to produce success while enduring harm. We're told to bring our authentic selves to work, but then are punished for doing so. We shoulder invisible violence, code switching to survive in spaces not built for us. And even in programs designed to support us, there's still a missing link. Our wellness, the wellness of our heart, our minds, our bodies, and our spirits. You see, oftentimes we don't need soft skills, we need safe systems. We don't need bootstraps, we need bridges. I mean, really, have you ever tried to pull yourself up by your own bootstraps? It's literally impossible. So we don't need rugged individualism, we need a unified village. As you graduate from college and prepare to enter the job market, I want you to remember you are not there to prove anything. You are there to learn. And since you're learning, you will make mistakes, and that's okay. Perfectionism is off the table, because if you're perfect, you're not learning or growing anyway. Nurturing a healthy mindset is one of the greatest gifts you can ever give or get. And that brings me to skill set. What skills do you need to thrive within the system? You see, skill set is not really about your resume. It's more so about your discernment. It's also about practical tools and strategies to navigate and build systems without losing your center. Yes, learn the system. Yes, learn the software, learn the tools, learn the language of the industry. Do all of those things, but also, can you articulate your values, your ideas, and your boundaries? Do you understand the spoken and unspoken rules of the game you're about to play? Can you advocate for yourself with grace and strategy? Can you find or build a community that nourishes you? Can you prioritize rest and self-care without feeling guilty? Are you creating opportunity or just chasing it? Do you know how to leave when a job no longer aligns? So what are the external systems that can support you in this endeavor? Mentors and champions, absolutely. Those that speak your name in rooms that you have yet to enter. Online communities, find or help cultivate an online community of practice that shadows, that exemplifies your value system. Faith communities, yes, that affirm your humanity, culture, and purpose. And professional organizations built by and for us. Use these external systems to sharpen your capacity, not to affirm your value. You don't need any person or any system to do that. You were born, therefore you are valuable to God. And what could matter more than that? You are not meant to fake it till you make it. You are meant to trust that learning in the open is more powerful than pretending in silence. And that brings me to habit set. What you repeat, you become. This is the part that most of us ignore. Habit set is what makes the mindset and the skill set sustainable. Because we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our habits. So do you make a habit of checking in with your inner dialogue? What's the weather in your head right now? Is it stormy with a chance of cloudy meatballs? Is it sunshiny? Is it a beautiful day, full of opportunity and grace? Do you have a daily routine that centers you? Meditation, prayer, reflection. Are you building systems of rest, reflection, and recovery? Many of us have been raised to believe that criticism is care, that hustle is honor, and that grind equals greatness. But that's not excellence, that is trauma. You are the architect of your nervous system. If you're constantly anxious, your genius will not flow, it will fizzle. Ask yourself, what do I tell myself when I make mistakes? Who do I go to when I need to be reminded of my worth? Do I start my day with urgency or with intention? As one of my brilliant bonus daughters, Tarita Preston, says, the opposite of anxiety is not peace, it's creativity. The opposite of anxiety is not peace, it's creativity. And creativity does not bloom in burnout. It blooms in calm, in clarity, in wholeness. And I want to remind you, and Shazel said this earlier, we've done this before. This ain't new to us. If we look across the diaspora, we are the architects of some of the greatest systems of all time. Think about Mansa Musa in the Mali Empire. Still the richest person to ever have lived. And he was not a tyrant, by all accounts. He was a generous, kind leader, led through trade, scholarship, and religious laws of governance. Queen Nzinga ruled what would be today Angola, in the southern part of West Africa. Queen Nzinga built political alliances and was relentless in fighting the Portuguese colonizers. And she unified tribes to protect Black sovereignty. Look at the Greenwood district of Oklahoma. Hello, Black Wall Street. We did that. Black Wall Street generated over $200 million before it was destroyed in 1921. So I can put my hand on my hip. $200 million in 1921.
Oh, that's a thing.
We did that through wealth, through community building, through infrastructure and systems. And look at a current example today. Anyone know PG County, Maryland? So Prince George's County, and also Charles County now is coming up. Charles County, Maryland, with the highest per family income levels of Black families all over the country. 200,000 plus. Thriving communities through land ownership, through entrepreneurship, through policy development, and a sense of community. When we look across the diaspora, from before times to today times, Black success has never been individual. It is always collective, always rooted in shared values, vision, and systems built by and for us. So I want to share with you how I have operationalized this framework in my own life. Once I was out from under the stress and strain of corporate America, my anxiety faded, my creativity flowed. Within 1 year, I had created a 501c3 nonprofit, African Link Initiative, or ALI for short. ALI is an evidence-based identity development program designed to transform how youth of African descent see the world and their possibilities by first transforming how they see themselves in the past, present, and future, and how they see the continent of Africa. So far, and our program has 3 core parts and culminates in a birthright trip to Africa. And so far, we've taken our students to Ghana. As you know, over 30 states in this country have introduced legislation to ban or restrict Black history education and or CRT. And 18 of them now, if not more, have legislation on their books. Only 7 of our 50 states have not yet introduced legislation, and they may have now. This is about a month old. But many of those still have banned dozens of Black books from their libraries and schools, including the autobiography of our beloved Malcolm X. Banning Black books and silencing Black narratives and contributions is a trend across the country. But I submit to you that there is a silver lining. Have you noticed that the more Black books are banned, the more we want to read them? Have you read a good land book lately? I have. And so, Shazel reminded us this morning that we are a people who create from nothing, but faith, inspired vision, and community. And so this too is a silver lining. This is not a time for panic or for fear. Quite opposite is true. This is a time to recognize, like double dutch, up. It's time to get in, y'all. Get in the game. Because we have what we need. We always have. It's time to now reprioritize it and look inward. We have the wealth that we need in our community. We always have had it. So I'm so grateful that This may sound crazy, but I'm glad they banned Black education in schools, because it wasn't doing a good job anyway. Because if you continue to depend on your oppressor to educate you, you actually think you might be getting a good education. But if they stop, then you say, well, now we got to do it ourselves. And I bet you, we're going to do it 1,000 times better than they would. So thank you for the opportunity to do what we could and should have been doing for ourselves all the time. This is an opportunity. It is not a punishment. This is God showing us that we are ready to step into our greatness, step into the leadership that He designed us to have, not to cower and shrink. The opposite is quite true. And if you just look at an example, if you don't believe me, look at examples of other communities that seem to be quite unbothered. Just for a moment, the Asian community. They're not one going around going, oh, look what happened next. No, they're quite unbothered. Why? Because they have their own schools, their own banks, their own stores, their own communities, entire ecosystems and economies built to support their culture and their way of living. And so that is proof that leaning into and unifying with others in your culture is a protective factor. So the African Link Initiative, the reason we designed it, the reason I believe that God placed it as an inspiration on my heart is for this moment. I created the program in 2019 as I was healing from generational trauma around bigotry and racism. When I was about 7 years old, I grew up on my family's farm in New Jersey, and I woke up to my family screaming and crying, yelling at us, "Get down, get down." Quite normally, as a 7-year-old, I popped up. I wanted to see what was the fuss all about. I looked outside. There was a giant cross burning in our front yard. Mm-hmm. New Jersey, the 70s, y'all. And from there, that was for me really a moment where, looking back, I became afraid. I was no longer proud of my own brown skin. My family, instead of teaching me that I shared birthday with the great Malcolm X, they taught me to be kind, to be polite, to genuflect, to acquiesce. Mm-hmm. This was safety. I understand it, and I appreciate it. This was safety. Because I was the one that would have been loud and proud. I'd have been the one that got myself and somebody else hurt or killed, right? Because I was going to be the one. And so that was a protective factor back then, but that is not the protective factor today. So African Link Initiative is a result. And I wanted to give young Black students what I needed, which is to lean into my ancestry, lean into and understand who I was and where I came from. So in part one of our league, it's called Where Do I Come From? We begin with cultural identity. Scholars take an African ancestry DNA test to trace their lineage to a current African country and tribe in the continent of Africa. African ancestry doesn't keep, sell, share, or store our DNA. It's destroyed at the lab once it's analyzed. And that's really important for us. Mm-hmm. As the late Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowry said, if you don't know where you come from, it's hard to understand where you are, and even more difficult to see where you're going. And that was the epitome of my story. I didn't know where I came from. As a young kid, the white community around us, it was like they were screaming epithets at us when they called us African. We're not African! Go back to Africa. We're not from Africa. We were mad. Instead of being proud, so that's right. Because we didn't know where we came from. I have since traced my ancestry and my maternal line, my mother's 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 mother, all the way back, are from the Mende people of Sierra Leone, y'all. And that makes me proud. And when I hear about the stories of my ancestors like Singa Ben Pen, who refused to lie down and die, I'm like, that's right, that's why we don't take yes. Because that's in my blood. So finding out where you come from makes you stand stronger on your square. Leaning into your ancestry, leaning into your history, gives you pride and confidence when maybe you didn't have it. And so, in African Link Initiative, that was our goal for our students. to find out where they come from. We focus on mindset, Black pride, grounding, clarity in the truth of where we come from, and begin to erase the lies we've been told about who we are. You see, people of African descent, whether you were born on the continent of Africa, raised there, still live there, or your people were stolen, brought here to this country, and raised in America or other parts of the Western psyche, we exist on two sides of the same oppression coin. Those that remained were colonized, with few exceptions. Those that were stolen were injected with the colonizer's blood. And we were taught to worship him in many ways. So the stories we tell ourselves in many ways are the stories that he taught us about who we are, where we come from, and who we can become. Our inheritance, and how we should treat each other, and how we should not trust each other, and how we should not trust people and things that look like us, that come from us and for us. Why we should not be in community with one another. All lives. Part 2 of Ali is, where am I now? What skills do I need to thrive where I am in my current stage of life? We call it Influencer Academy, where we strengthen our scholars' public speaking and presentation skills, and they record their own TED Talks. So far, we have 5 published TED Ed speakers, and we're really thrilled about that, and we have another 5 that we're training at the moment. Because we amplify their voices around the world as to how they see the world and what solutions they believe we need. We also teach them how to grow food. They learn how to grow food hydroponically, without pesticides or herbicides, non-GMO, heirloom seeds. Because how can we be free if we can't feed ourselves? Bless you. Part 3 of Ali, where can I grow from here? Features student-led conversations on liberation, on systems, and connecting to our diaspora. Practicing habit set, visioning, reflection, global leadership, and community building. And then our scholars travel to Africa and experience firsthand the land, soil, the soul, love, and language of Mother Africa. At Ali, our goal is to educate, but also to reorientate. We want to inspire as well as equip. So that brings me to my final piece, plugging in on purpose. As you prepare to unplug from this place and plug in to the outside world, pause. Ask yourself, what system am I plugging into? What story is it telling me about who I am and what I can become? What am I building, not only for my salary and my retirement, but also for my soul? You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to be the only one or the first one. You don't need to prove anything. You are here, you are there to learn. That is your job. You are here, you are there to build what our ancestors dreamed of and what our descendants will inherit. Because unity is not a one-liner, it's actually a wealth-building strategy. And we've proven that over and over again. It's the blueprint our ancestors left behind, and the only path that will carry us forward in this day, in this time, with power and purpose. And as I close, I hold the joy of the shared birthday with my beloved brother, Malcolm X, and his example in my heart. May each one of us find the courage to learn from the brilliant examples of our foremothers and forefathers. May each of us find the courage to stand up and be the architects of change, builders of care, and doers of justice, answering the call of history with the work of our hands and the wisdom of our hearts. May we honor our ancestors, not only with remembrance, but with replication. Let us live as they prayed we would, bold, brilliant, and unbound. Thank you.
So are you taking 2 questions?
If you have,
Thank you. Yes.
not sure if we have time.
Yeah, we do have time. Absolutely. Thank you, Shazel Muhammad. Wow. Very inspiring. We have about 10, 15 minutes of Q&A, so if you have questions, you see questions over there? Yes, please introduce yourself and then ask a question.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for sharing this afternoon. And my name is Gonsted Chambrian from Haiti. Next week I will graduate in psychology and I get accepted to Marymount College to do my master in mental health counseling. As you speak, I was thinking about situation, feeling, and behavior. Because I understand the goal of this talk is mostly to keep our mindsets still. However, sometimes situations tend to reverse the way we stand. Even though I believe in God, I have faith, I try to practice like positive psychology. But the situation for now, I was working as a family advocate. I see what Haitians are going through. So we are oppressed. They're telling everything about us. How to live in America with a clear mindset. How to live here without shame. How to advocate as a future counselor for people and Haitian people who is living here. Some of them are undocumented, hiding, stressed out. How to stand up to not burn out myself, and how can I help them with a clear mindset? How to not fake it?
Wonderful question. Thank you so much for that. I think that's a question that may be resonating in many minds today, in this room and outside this room. What I suggest you do is not easy, but it's possible. First thing, check your news streams, your news feeds. Where is the information coming in to you that's telling you that now is the time to be nervous, to be stressed, to shrink, to feel in the negative ways that actually hold you back? Where is that information coming from? Where is that energy coming from? And then close it out. Resist it. Just shut it down. It's not helpful. So it's estimated that we have somewhere around 40,000 thoughts per day. Something like that. It's also estimated that the vast majority of our thoughts, maybe 80 to 90% of those thoughts, are actually negative thoughts. And about 95 of those thoughts are repetitive thoughts. So the vast majority are negative, and the vast majority are repetitive. We are constantly telling ourselves negative stories over and over and over again. But if you cut off the source of the story, and you then introduce a positive source of story, then you actually are feeding yourself. It's like having a diet that's based in high trans fat and wondering why we're not healthy, or a diet that's based in rich vegetables and fruits. So we have to choose the source of our information, just like we choose the source of our food, because that's what nourishes us, our bodies, our minds, spirits, and souls. So if we allow ourselves to continue to be influenced by the current news cycle, which is all negative, or we choose to redirect our energy, it's a choice. Choose to redirect our energy, even though it's not easy. It is a choice that we have to make. And that will then redirect us to sources that are actually here to feed us and be positive. And thank God for the internet. My husband reminds me of this all the time. He's like, there's some really good things out there, because I am not an internet person. I struggle to post like one thing a year, if that, but there's so much positive information out there. Look at Burkina Faso and President Traore. He's always got something positive to say, in my book, my opinion anyway. Look at the news cycles that affirm who you are, that encourage, thank you, sir, thank you, sir, that encourage, I'm sorry, I'm trying to see over the lights, that encourage who you are, that affirm where you're going, and that give you the confidence until you have your own. That would be my suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Harrison Clark, and I really, my question stems from the process that you listed out, all the way from getting DNA tested to actually, making the connection back to the continent. What do you envision being the lasting impact, and how do we make this so it's not like a once-in-a-lifetime type of thing, but actually building communication pathways between the diaspora so that people, once they have this amazing experience, they're a phone call away, a plane ticket away. It's like you have your cousins on the other side that you can just go and see, and we're actually getting back to a place. Because what's really interesting is none of us are the same way that we loved each other as we're finding ourselves again. So we're already having to re-find ourselves and reorient ourselves and ask, what does our new connection look like? And you've done a really amazing job in building this framework, this structure to facilitate that. And so my question is, how do you envision it becoming more mainstream and also more efficient?
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, great to see you again, Harrison. So that's a great question. I'm glad you asked. In fact, one of the things we do currently to make sure this is sustainable is that we are connecting our students here with our students on the continent. And we do have some tricky things to deal with, like time zones and et cetera, and Wi-Fi bandwidth, those things get in the way, but we are still consistently making progress in that. But our program is multi-year, so the student would enter, and this is their scale planning. Our students enter in 9th grade, they go 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. And then in their 12th grade year, they take a trip to Africa. And so with that comes a few things. One, you're being introduced to not only the language, the information and knowledge that's scaffolded on top of itself year after year after year, but then you're also being introduced to your brothers and sisters across the diaspora, whether domestically or internationally. That's one. Two is, our plan is to scale the program across the country and have sister programs on the continent of Africa, and through a train-the-trainer model. So for example, some people call it white label, I call it black label. The program where we have a train-the-trainer model and individuals and community organizations are trained to facilitate the program in their local community, and then we support them. So that way we can share the curriculum, we can share the assets that we have, we can share the infrastructure, the framework, the process design that we have, and sort of a plug and play for local organizations, like here in Boston, for example, that could do that. And how do we not make it a one and done is sort of what I also heard you ask, is because we have to be consistent about it. We are invested in it, and we call on each other to be invested in it. And because if we know that, and the data shows us this, that the further we are disconnected from our cultural inheritance, our cultural identity, the less protective factors we have around mental health. The data is clear that actually shows our lived experience that cultural identity is a key protective factor in mental health. And so until we accept that, we're going to continue to be on the path that we're on now. And I think that we're ready now. I think that we're ready in this country. I think we're ready in our community to step into that and step forward into our responsibility to taking care of ourselves and the next generation. Thank you. Yes.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
So thank you so much. So I'm sort of curious back to your experience of finding out that you were $20,000 underpaid. And unfortunately, that story is very familiar. I think we know that so much. So I'm sort of curious, what is your, based on your own experience, also do you have any toolkit for young people getting into the market? How do they not get that experience? But also when they find out that they're actually underpaid that much, what do they do?
So the experience is, I think you asked how do they get the experience to be able to find out if they're underpaid or not?
How not to get that? How not to
Oh, how do you learn that?
But once you're underpaid, what do you do? So not getting the experience, maybe people should not be underpaid. How do you get what you actually
Worth, what you should be paid.
Yeah, and once you find out that you're underpaid, what's the job, and then you can't exit, what do you do?
Thank you for that question, Patricia. So one thing I would say is, the first thing that you do, I'm sorry, Patricia, Charlotte. So thank you, Patricia. So the first thing you do is, before you enter a job, you do your research. What is the going rate for this particular job in this city, with this experience, with these degrees, whatever the certifications are that are required for the job. You find out what the range is for the job, then you know, I need to be within this range because that's fair for what I'm bringing to the table. So that's one. Know what the value of the work that you're being asked to do is in that city. Because it's different in Boston and New York and New Jersey where I live. It's very different in Philadelphia. So find out what the going rate is. Then it's also about picking the organization. Don't just pick the pay. Because what happens, and what happened to me is, you understand, you learn that the salary they pay you is just enough to forget about your dreams. If they could, they'd pay you even less. But just as much as it would take for you to stay put and forget about your dreams of going anywhere else. So you have to go in, I think, with a plan to say, am I entering this job force or corporate America or whatever the structure is, I'm gonna go here and stay here? Or am I open to saying I'm gonna go and learn, get some experience, and I can then take either back to my community, or take to another organization, or build my own organization, or get together with some graduates and build our own organization, build our own business, build our own new thing, new solution to the old problems? Where am I going to invest my brilliance, my energy, my time, and my sacrifice? So it's all about decisions and choices. But the first thing you can do is be educated about what the going rate is of that job in that place. And then if you find out, or maybe when you find out that you were underpaid, then you have a decision to make. I had a decision to make. To be able to walk away from that job, I had to transform everything in my life. I lived in what for me was my dream house. I sold my dream house. Because I didn't want to be burdened to have to work for a particular type of company, or to have to make a certain dollar pay to live like this. It wasn't worth it for me. I said, I know what I want to do, and I have to restructure my life to support what I know my call is. So it's all about decisions and choices, and thankfully, we all are the masters and mastresses of our own decisions and choices. So that would be my suggestion.
Thank you. Last question here.
Hi, I'm Michael. This kind of stems off a bit of what Harrison was talking about, kind of like reconnecting with your community and culture. I guess like for me, I'm similar to you that like my family's been here for centuries, you know, kind of that thing, you know. So I think for me here in Boston specifically, I find myself struggling to connect with other members of the Black diaspora, you know, be it that they have cultures in places like Haiti, Jamaica, Trinidad, stuff like that. So I find it hard for myself specifically to kind of connect and integrate myself in the culture and the community. So like what type of advice would you give to connect with your culture and communities like here in your backyard?
That's a great question, Michael. Thank you for that. I would suggest you do what I did. Take an African ancestry DNA test and find out where you come from. And I don't recommend any other company except African ancestry, not anything else. They're Black owned, they're Black run, Black scientists, Black geneticists. They are the Black show. Dr. Gina Page is the president and co-founder. I know her personally. I love her dearly and respect her. And she does the work for the culture truly. And so that's what I would recommend. I would first recommend you find out where you come from. Because what I noticed about the different groups that you talked about were they have a sense of pride in where they come from. Because they know. You can't tell them who they are because they already know who they are. Right? So find out who you are based on where you come from and lean into the brilliance and beauty of that. Learn about that. And then bring that to the table. So guess what I learned, y'all? I'm this also, or I'm this. Is anybody here else that? And you walk in with your own identity piece of your own identity puzzle now filled in for yourself. Because it's a beautiful piece, even if you don't know it yet, it's a beautiful piece sitting out there waiting for you to discover. So that would be my first advice to you.
Thank you. And thank you again, Shazel Mohammed. Thank you. All right. There we go on. These keynotes, wow, right? Keynotes.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
these keynotes.
Thank you.
All right, we're moving on to the breakout sessions for the afternoon. And I would like to introduce the keynotes